6
Sorry, I don't
o'clock.
turn my back to you.
No, it's fine.
Okay?
Yeah.
Everybody?
Ready?
I'd like to call to order the school committee meeting of October 18th. You have before you an agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the public? Seeing none? Superintendent's report.
Okay, so the first thing on the superintendent's report is the calendar. You will notice that the calendar is a little different than what you have seen in the past, and thanks to my executive assistant, she has created a new, little bit more modernized calendar. You do need to read it from right to left, not from up to down, so start at this top one and then go over here and then follow that way. The calendar is in its first draft form here, and the one, just to, create or show you some areas, the yellow dates are holidays, the blue dates are school breaks, the orange dates are staff professional development days, and the pink dates are the district early release days. We also added in green for snow days, potential snow days. And that's what you will see. The list of holidays is on the bottom, and then you have a nice list of each month's goings-on on the right. So we have sent this to the NTA for review, and I hope that the district leadership team will also have a chance to review. A lot of the half-days were kind of rolled over, which happens pretty regularly from year to year. But there's still discussion, but we wanted to bring this to you as a draft. And if there's another iteration, we will bring it to you another time. So I don't know if there are any questions or anything in particular that need to be approached.
This seems like a short Christmas break.
It is a short Christmas break. We potentially could be needing to add a day, which would mean a potential ending or taking the 22nd as an additional day, unless you wanted to add the January day on Tuesday, you wanted to take that day. My guess is that the majority of people would prefer to have the 22nd as an additional day. It is a short break, yes. It does get us out a lot earlier in June.
Yeah, I noticed that.
If we add, this is interesting, so if we add a day, that still provides us, even with one additional vacation day, we still will get out before the Juneteenth holiday, which is always a challenge for us because it's it's right at the end of school and it's really difficult. Even though it's in place, it's hard when you have to have people come back after a weekend or after a holiday. So that's a piece. I'm sure, as I see people in the audience taking a look, my hope is that if there's anything in particular that comes up, that you email me and let me know. We did add the kindergarten dates, last day, schedule last day, and same thing for pre-K. So hopefully you'll have those on.
Any questions, Esmeralda?
No questions. You said, sorry,
That's okay.
through the chair, you said the half-days are not included on this yet?
No, they're all in pink.
Oh,
So the
okay.
pink days are half-days.
Okay. I'm
It's hard to
trying
tell the
adjust.
picture. Look for Wednesdays. Those are all the colored boxes, and Wednesdays are the half-days.
Okay.
Laura?
I'm not following, Beth, about the Juneteenth comment about, I'm confused about that.
So just the fact that school is, if we don't have many snow days, and even if we add an extra vacation day in December, we still will end school prior to the Juneteenth holiday. So let's just say, at this moment, the 17th is our last day of school, which is early. If we had to add a vacation day, so the last day of school would be the 18th, we wouldn't require anybody to have to come back after the Juneteenth holiday, which
I
is what
see.
gets very confusing with staff, with kids, with everybody. So it's nice to have it ahead of time. And I think most other school districts that have their vacation week that ties into the holiday in February, they don't run up against this problem like we do.
Right, okay.
So that's that's an advantage of having, you know, the hope is that we don't have snow days. We never can determine how that's going to go. But,
Thank you.
yeah.
September 4th
Mhm.
has it here as a holiday, but it says September 5th. I don't know if it's a discrepancy.
Where is December? Oh, yes, okay, thank you. Thanks for noticing. It's it's September 4th that is the holiday. Thank you. So we'll make that change.
Also through the chair, Diane mentioned Thanksgiving, the same, it's the 23rd.
Okay, we'll make those changes.
Pauline?
No, I mean, it looks like Thanksgiving, I know our staff have always asked for, more time for travel, so it looks like that's been accommodated. The September 1st, no school day, you've got it as PD from Monday through Thursday.
Correct.
So it's not really an official school day for students, right?
No, there is no break on that day. In fact, that should not be.
It's just a little confusing.
You're right, that should not be, that shouldn't be.
Highlighted.
Highlighted, yes, so that should
Okay.
just be a plain white day, as
Okay.
opposed to a blue day.
Yep.
So we'll just make that change.
Okay.
You have a question?
Chair, it was last year blue for a school break, but it's not a staff PD day, which is like a yellowish color. But it's September 1st you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So it's no school break, but we can just make it white.
I think it's confusing because it's,
'Cause school
students haven't
doesn't
even
start.
gone back yet, so if you're
Yeah.
seeing a school break before school goes back, I don't know, it might, certainly for our younger students or new parents, that might be confusing. And then professional development, so that ends in November. Nothing else during the year, right?
Full days, no. There's still room for some negotiation on this. I mean, this is kind of your first
Mhm.
blush at this, so we won't necessarily put it up for vote until we've had information back from the union and back from the district leadership team. But it's possible that the Friday day that's been normally the All Cape Day on the 6th, that might change. It's a possibility. We haven't had a chance to really discuss it yet, but that could change. What won't change will be the 4 days in the beginning of August, at the beginning of the year, and the voting day on
Right,
November
the
7th. But the 6th of October maybe there'll be a change with discussion. Of course, we still have a lot to. But this is just your first
Yeah.
sneak peek, so to speak.
Wouldn't it be good if we did it in just one?
We did last year, but I don't know about this year. I think we might need a few more, so.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other
Yeah.
questions with that? Oh, you're good?
I have a question. Why do we have snow days? Since we had it last couple of years doing it online.
We are required to have snow days. Online is not permitted. We have to have in-person days by the state, so.
It's just an idea, okay?
So we have to build those in case we have snow days, so. All right. May I
It's nice
continue?
getting out
Yeah.
early, though.
Yes,
Mhm.
agreed.
That's unprecedented.
I know.
Seeing that.
So next on the superintendent's report is the Principals Appreciation Month. I'm glad that all 4 principals are here with me today. October is National Principals Appreciation Month, and I wanted to be sure to recognize these incredibly hardworking individuals that lead the 4 schools in our district. They are the ones who greet the students and the staff every day. They take the time to learn their names and meet their parents. They ensure that operations are running smoothly at each school. They deal regularly with any issues that occur, including safety issues, facilities, food services, transportation, you name it. They are the instructional leaders of their buildings, working with educators every day to become better at their craft. They are often a shoulder to cry on when someone, a student, a staff member, or even a superintendent, has a bad day. They jump into any situation fearlessly, and they fiercely protect each other, their students, and every individual under their care. Vince Lombardi once said, "Leaders are made, they are not born. They are made by hard effort, which is the price which all of us must pay to achieve any goal that is worthwhile." So I believe that I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to thank profoundly our 4 principals, Kim Kubish, Eve Marie McNeil, Mike Horton, and Mandy Vassal. So please stand. We would like to thank you for showing up every day, supporting your staff, and everybody else. Thank you. And the Queen's
Like
wave.
we're waving.
I don't know if you have any questions or
Thank you.
comments, but.
Any comments?
Just thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I have a little
Thanks.
something planned for you later in the month, so I will reach out with information about that. Don't spoil it, Mike.
Free for dinner.
You just happen to be.
Okay, COVID clinic. Well, unfortunately, I cannot report on this item because, other than to say that the first of the 2 COVID booster clinics that we had planned, that would have been on Friday, October 14th, had to be postponed because of the town Department of Public Health issues. We will offer the second clinic, which will be this coming Friday, October 21st, at 2:30 p.m. in the ARR room at the Nantucket High School. This is for boosters only. This is not for your first COVID shot at all, but just boosters, and anyone in our school district is allowed to come and take advantage. I'm also pleased to share that we will be working with DPH to offer a similar clinic for flu vaccines. From what I understand, the flu vaccines right now are very few and far to come by. And so we hope to have dates shortly and times for those upcoming events. Homecoming is next. This weekend is homecoming weekend, and all week long there are a great number of events to celebrate. Both middle school and high school are participating in Spirit Weeks this week. NES and NIS are also jumping in as well towards the end of the week to show their support. I know that Natalie will be reporting on these events, so I'm not going to steal her thunder. But either way, I do encourage everyone to come out and support our sports teams as they take on Falmouth on Saturday. We have a lot of games going on. And there will also be a homecoming parade on Saturday morning with floats and convertible rides from the principal and myself, and the homecoming court that is crowned at the football game. So happy to answer any questions on that. We're good? Homecoming. And the final additional update is I wanted to share that we are very pleased to have hired Gabrielle Burns. She is our new ESL department ESP. So we have some administrative support to assist me as the interim EL director. And I'm very happy to have her with us. So and that's it. So any questions or comments? Happy to move on. That's it.
Okay, presentations and discussions of issues of interest to the committee. Math needs assessment. Should we be down front first?
Would you like us to be up front for the
That might be
presentation?
helpful. Would that be helpful to you?
That's great.
We are so excited to be here this evening to share the work that we've been doing around math teaching and learning in our district. I think you all know me. I'm Mandy Bardsley, the Director of STEM, and this is Allison Mello.
Right.
And do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Up until very recently, I was the assistant superintendent in Foxborough. And prior to that, I was the curriculum director for math science, very similar to Mandy. And prior to that, I was a middle school math specialist. But I'm also a college professor and an author, and I've been doing a lot of math consulting for years, and finally just decided that I want to do this all the time. So I'm really glad to be here with all of you. This is really my passion, and it's fun to be with a district that's all in.
So tonight, what we wanted to kind of talk through is the needs assessment that took place last year. We'll talk about the process and the recommendations that were made. There are recommendations that are specific to each school as well as overall for the district. for time purposes, we're gonna focus on across the commonalities across the whole district. But if you dive into the needs assessment, which was provided in your packet, you'll see that it goes into in-depth for each school. And that's because we're all, at every level, we're all learning and growing. And so we wanted to make sure that the recommendations were tailored to each school. And then we want to end with discussing the progress that we've made. We've been doing some really exciting things in math, and we want to share what those are. Sorry, it doesn't show our talking notes. So the purpose of the needs assessment, so this took place last school year. We started in October, and it went through June. So we assessed the curriculum resources and instructional practices of all learners and teachers throughout the district. We wanted to really look at what is the current landscape of math teaching and learning in our district. We wanted a cohesive plan. We want to figure out what's going on and figure out what the next steps are. We've got to dig in and figure out this problem and work together as a team, teachers and admin together, to find a solution. And then we want to look at what does math learning look like for all students. We have an equity lens going into this work, and we want to keep that at the forefront. And then we wanted recommendations that will move our district forward. Where do we start? Where do we move next? And you'll see when we get to the where do we move next, that's going to be a team decision from a committee that includes teachers and our leaders within the district.
So last year, when we embarked on this work, it was very interesting because I was still the superintendent, so I was taking my vacation days to come and work on this. That's when I knew it was time to really do this. It was so great. I got to be in classrooms. Was our first phase. I visited classrooms and got to see what instruction looked like and felt like and sounded like in Nantucket. And then I was meeting with the administration regularly. And that was the beauty after COVID, was that we all got comfortable meeting on Zoom, so it was really easy to do that. In phase 2, we created a teacher survey, and we got feedback from all the administrators based on their needs of their building. So we had very specific questions, some that were universal to the district and some that were very specific to them. And they had a heavy hand in formulating those. And we wanted to make sure that we got full engagement of all the staff, as many people as we could. So even people that you might not think about directly when you think about math, like the L teachers and the special educators and other service providers, we had them as part of the survey. We mixed qualitative and quantitative, so we had rating scale questions and open-ended questions. And in phase 3, we had smaller groups that were focus groups for teachers representing specific grade levels. And I met with them over a series of days on Zoom to get all of their input. That was really, really beneficial. They lasted about 75 minutes each, and it was another way to get teacher voice in the mix. So out of that work came recommendations. And I have to just commend the district for taking such a deep dive into the work and really seeking the voices of all the admin and all the teachers. So you can see some photos here that Mandy has put in from the professional development we've done. But this is your decoder key. So on the next couple of slides, they'll talk about the recommendations. Anything in black, we haven't actually started yet. Anything in orange is in progress. And believe it or not, some things have already been completed. So we'll take a look at those. Our first dilemma that we looked at was hearing from teachers that students were not achieving mastery of certain standards within their grade level. They were looking for a more streamlined curriculum experience. They felt like maybe they didn't have enough minutes when they were instructing in math, and they felt like they really needed to differentiate. And we know that the community and the student makeup is diverse anyway, but coming back from COVID, we have a lot of different needs because of unfinished learning. So really differentiation is more important than ever. So the recommendations were to really look at the essential standards in each grade and course, ensure that the curriculum maps and the pacing guides support mastery of those, and we're all focused on those and using the PLC time to monitor how students are doing on those and then make adjustments as needed. Provide ongoing in-depth training on how to effectively differentiate instruction in math and how do you make the most of the math minutes you do have. Because sometimes you can't get more, so how do we make them really matter? And then you'll see that we haven't started yet, but looking at schedules to really identify time for the what I need block opportunities, or maybe some additional instructional minutes. And then really looking at the RTI MTSS process. Where does that need to be reviewed or tweaked a little bit so that they can really closely monitor student progress and give those interventions in real time, particularly for the students who are identified as English learners, multi-language learners, or have an IEP.
So we've been really taking a look at math manipulatives. They were inconsistently provisioned and utilized across the schools. Some teachers had more, some teachers had less, and we want to make sure that our teachers have what they need so that our students are seeing the concrete, and we're helping them move from the concrete to the representational to the abstract. Our job as teachers is to be the build bridger. Build bridger? That's other way around. The bridge builder, and really helping them think about how to move across those three areas. So the recommendations around developing a key list of manipulatives for each grade level or course. Audit the current collection of manipulatives. So that work has been done, but we find out new information all the time. So that is being updated as we go. Yes.
If I may through the chair, could you just clarify what manipulatives are?
Oh, so manipulatives would be a tool that the students could use. So it could be like a base 10 block. I didn't bring any to show.
If I had my bag, I always have it. But something like if you were working with fractions, you would have like a plastic fraction bar, like what does one whole look like? What does one half look like? Something that represents the math that they're doing in a way that kids can touch it, move it, feel it. Excellent question. It's really important to help kids make meaning of what they're seeing, so it's not just numbers all the time. It's a lot of visuals, which we know are helpful to students with language needs, all kinds of needs. So yes, sorry, no, I'm not a
No.
mic, I know better.
So we have audited that, and we are updating it as we go. We have begun the process of purchasing some additional manipulatives for our teachers and students. And then we're embedding professional development. Within the professional development that we have planned for this year, we are embedding the use of manipulatives and how to use those with our students. The third dilemma was that students classified as special education, as English language learners, or former English language learners score significantly below the state average on MCAS. There's also a need, there's also an increase in special education students placed in partial inclusion, and these students are not always taught by teachers of math. So this is the equity piece for our L students and our special education students. So we really need to dive in as a district and examine the practices for student placement. We have not begun this work, but this is, as we're starting to work on schedules for next year, this is something that we've got to look at. We need to examine the practices for pull-out versus push-in inclusion. So the research is showing that the push-in model is a stronger model for intervention, and so we need to figure out what that looks like. We need to prioritize math teachers for special education and L students. We need to make sure that they have the instructors who really know the math alongside their special educators. It's not necessarily an either-or situation, but a both-and. We need to include special education and L teachers in all math PD. Our special education teachers have been attending our math PD, which has been fantastic. Our L teachers, we decided that we need to tailor something a little bit more specific for them around the language of math, because it's a slightly different need, and so we're working on what that looks like. And then explore specialized resources to support students in alternative math environments. So one of the things that teachers were saying was, we don't have the curriculum that we need. The curriculum that we have isn't quite right for the students. We need something that's going to help us bring them up to grade level, and we want those resources. And so we've been helping to identify, working with the teachers to identify what they need.
So one of the other dilemmas that came up loud and clear was that there's been a lack of math professional development that's been sustained. So I feel really grateful. So thank you for having me here, and thank you for having me in the district to be part of a vision that's long-term. It's not one day of math professional development and then we say, good luck. This is a sustained effort. It's targeted. It's differentiated. We're trying to model for teachers what we would like them to do for students and making sure that things are personalized and individualized as much as they can. And they have different needs, just like the kids. Some people might have needs around the math content and understanding it. Some people might not, they've never had these manipulatives. How do I use them? When do I use them? Some people might really be struggling with the language support. So making sure that we're providing all those different things to teachers so that they can get what they need is really the goal of this type of professional development. And as you'll see, we've been doing a lot of it as we've been going through. Is this me still? Yes, this is me. One of the other dilemmas, and Mandy already touched on it, was that teachers struggle to meet the needs of English learners. It's no secret that the population here has really grown significantly in the last few years. So teachers are looking for supports. So how do we make a math classroom accessible to all students? You might have seen on the last slide UDL, the Universal Design for Learning. A lot of that is just putting things in place that would help anyone. So if I put up math vocabulary right now, it would help not just the English learners, not just the students who have IEPs, it would help everybody. If I made it visual, it would help everybody. So there's that kind of explicit professional development around adding those supports. We've been learning new routines, and that's what you see the teachers doing in some of those pictures, how you make math kinesthetic. So we're moving around. How do we make it visual? How do we build number sense in a way that's fun and engaging? And that's all levels, not just the little kids. It's all the kids. How do we shift it so that the teachers are talking less and the kids are talking more? And that's really been something to explore. How do we make sure that our vocabulary is consistent and we have visual vocabulary cards to support teachers? And then how are we leveraging technology? So things like Seesaw, Flipgrid, and Kami, you'll see that that is currently saying that it's not in progress, but we're finding out that some teachers are starting to explore those independently, even though we haven't we've mentioned them. But we're trying to dole this out in manageable bite-sized chunks so that they don't get overwhelmed either. So it's exciting that they are eager to put these supports in place because they want to feel successful in their math instruction and they want to see the return on the kids, their performance becoming stronger.
Interestingly, I received an email from Seesaw yesterday that said, wow, your district increase has gone through the roof. So I was like, I didn't think that this had started, but it has, in terms of the technology piece. So our last dilemma was that teachers desired a math point person at each building. And so all 4 of our principals have stepped up and they are going to be the point person alongside myself, so that the teachers know who that they can go to ask the questions.
Can I just interject there for 1 second?
Yes.
I know that you've already been appreciated tonight, but I just want to appreciate you again because they have been coming to all the professional development and have really been shoulder partners with their teachers in this work, and that doesn't happen everywhere. So I just want to say thank you for that.
And I do also want to add that Jen Saradellis came, and Eve Marie and Donna and Kim Albertson. So it's really not just been the principals, it's been the assistant principals as well. So this has been a team effort to dive into this work. A few additional considerations that Allison recommended is that we should continue to support building administration with ongoing consultation, to explore systems for sustainable professional development for new teachers. We did add a new teacher day around math for our elementary teachers this year to unpack Eureka, so that they had a day to kind of do some sense making and figure out the program before the students came in. We want to consider the addition of math coaches at each level or school to support teachers. We have a couple in place, a couple part-time positions in place. At NIS, there are 2 math specialists, and part of their role is coach and part of their role is interventionist. But we'd like to see more of the coaching going on within the schools. And then examine and refine our RTI and MTSS systems. So MTSS is our multi-tier systems of support. And you'll see in a few minutes that our admin team is leaning into some of this work, taking a course together, and trying to figure out how we can have different tiers of support. So tier 1 would be in the classroom. It's what we can do to differentiate and provide universal supports for our students. Tier 2 can happen inside the classroom, or it can happen, it can be in a different location, but it's an additional layer. It's not as deep as tier 3, where tier 3 is really those who need some significant support. And I am doing a lot of learning around MTSS as well.
Well, you're not alone. I think all the administrators in the state are very busy working on MTSS. So this, I get the really fun part of this presentation to show off the progress that's been made so far. And I just have to say, the amount of progress, having been here last year in the classrooms and now coming, I was here last week, and I get like a dorky smile on my face because I'm so impressed with how much already has changed in just a short period of time. And the teachers are very excited, and the students seem very engaged. And hopefully, if you have students in the school or you know students in the school, you could ask them about some of the different things that are happening in math, because they seem pretty excited about it. So what we started off with right off the bat was offering a graduate course around the math workshop model and guided math. And that's just really an approach to math instruction that really makes it easier for teachers to differentiate and for students to get what they need. It involves some small group instruction, and it involves using workstations for kids to practice in areas that they need, like those standards that we said they need to master. If the book just moves on, how do we ever go back to those things? So this gives them that space to do that, which is great. So we actually ran the course on island, which was wonderful, and Eve Marie was there, and we having the support. Mandy was also there. They were all there. It was amazing. And we did have a small cohort of teachers. As you know, summer is a very precious time. So getting people to give up their time in the summer was really impressive. So that was our first thing. And then at the end, we'll offer it again next summer. People are talking about it now, so hopefully we'll have people come again. And we have a follow-up day coming up on November 6th. So teachers start that work, and then we have our final class meeting to see how it's going and make adjustments. And in this case, I've also been here as part of their planning time to help them make adjustments. As Mandy mentioned, you had the new elementary teachers Eureka orientation in August. And then that first week, like you just saw on your calendar for next year, of professional development, each school had their own day of math professional development. So I worked with NES, NIS, and CPS, and we had, up in that first photo there, we had, he's a nationally renowned math expert, Steve Leinwand, and he focuses a lot on high school, so he worked with the high school team. And in addition to that, we made sure that we included educational assistants, we had special education teachers there, we had program teachers there. It was a very inclusive experience, and the feedback around that was really positive, so that was great. And then we have our coaching sessions. So I am scheduled throughout the year to be on site, working with people in real time so that they can get, if they have questions or they need help, we can do it right there. So that's great. And you can see some of the pictures that they had. Last week when I was here, we used the priority standards, which those were identified by a national research group called Achieve the Core. And they have a really good understanding of the trajectory of the standards. So what do you need to know from this grade to really be able to be successful in the next grade? Those decisions shouldn't just be left up to teachers to figure out for themselves. So it's really nice to have the support of those groups. So we're using those to guide us in how much time we plan in our curriculum for scope and sequence. So what do we need to prioritize and make sure students have mastery of? And then update the curriculum documents. And then working with the programs we have. Right now, Eureka's in place, illustrative math. how do we make that work with the workshop model? And how do we, get the most out of those programs? Because we know, as Mandy said, in some cases, we heard they might not be meeting the needs of all students. So how do we tweak them to make sure that they can better meet them? And then the math manipulatives.
So I already spoke to this some. They have been inventoried. We ordered, and I should have brought some examples. It didn't occur to me. Some beaded number strings, fraction towers, and place value sliders is where we started. And then we're developing a required list of manipulatives per grade and course.
I'll jump in just
Yes.
there for a second.
This
So
is hard,
when
yeah.
we were here in August and I brought these tools, I brought like a 72-pound suitcase with me out here. It was interesting. I would get quiet and I was like, what are you doing? They were trying to find the tools online to order them because they saw the power of using, so a beaded number string is 100 beads. So it's like a number line, but the kids can move the values of the numbers. That's a tool that you can use from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade because it turns into decimals. So the teachers, we were showing them how it was relevant and they got excited. The fraction towers, same kind of thing. On one side it has a fraction, then it has a decimal, then it has a percent. Everyone from 3rd grade all the way through high school, like, we need those. Kids struggle with fractions. This makes it so easy for them to see. They don't have to teach them these tricks to remember things. They can actually teach them how to think about it and figure it out. So they were really excited, and again, grateful that you can follow up and get them what they need right away. I think they feel really supported.
Shocker, it's all back ordered.
Yeah.
It was a pretty large order, so they're sending us what they have. And so we're putting together a district math committee, and this will include representatives from each grade level as well as special education in each school. We're going to meet 7 times this year, and we're going to monitor the progress made on our needs assessment that was done last year. We're going to examine the efficacy of current instructional resources and practices, and then we'll collaboratively plan next steps. So this is really, like I said from the beginning, it is a team effort, and that's how adaptive change works. We need to work together to try to solve the problems. And then in terms of the multi-tiered systems of support, we have the admin team taking the course together. We have an MTSS needs assessment planned for this fall. Based on those outcomes, we will review inclusive practices. And then in terms of intervention, we have a benchmark assessment in place, which is our MAP test for K-8. And that takes place 3 times per year. And that helps identify our students who need extra support. And so now it's your turn. What questions? Yes, I'll allow you to go back up there.
Esmeralda, you're up.
No questions, just a lot of information. A lot of information, right?
I think it's great. I think the use of manipulatives, for me, who is not a math person, it's so sensible and they're able to actually see it. I always think about measuring cups, and this sounds like sort of an extension of that. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by the workshop model? And before you do, I'm just curious, is there a textbook or is it online? Can you just talk about it a little bit? I have math anxiety even bringing this up. So.
Yeah, no, and actually, I'm glad that you said that, because one of the things I led with when I started the PD in August was that I am someone who suffered from great math anxiety. I was a very unsuccessful math student after 6th grade, and I realized it was because I didn't know anything. I'd been mimicking my teachers. I got all A's. I thought I was really great at math, and then I realized I wasn't. So that's why I become so passionate about this, I think, because I know how bad it feels when you don't understand. The workshop model is something that I learned about back in 2012, maybe, around there. Excuse me 1 second. And it's really, you can use it with any math program.
it's really an approach to instruction. So it's taking the math block and chunking it so that the kids aren't just sitting and listening to the teacher for the whole period. Instead of being passive, they're very active in their learning. So we started doing this in my district in maybe 2014. The teachers asked me to write a graduate course on it, and at the time I thought, well, I don't know anything about that, but I'll learn about it and we'll figure it out. So I met Dr. Nikki Newton. She wrote a book on it, and she's sort of the guru, and we've become very close friends. We've written a couple books together. And as we tried it, what we noticed very quickly was our kindergarten and first grade teachers got the hang of it the fastest. They were really comfortable having kids work in center sort of approach, where kids were working independently. And we don't call them centers anymore. They're workstations. They're really data informed. They're really targeted. But the older teachers had a lot of trouble releasing responsibility. They felt like if it didn't come out of their mouth, they didn't teach it. And so the big aha for teachers is realizing that kids can learn from each other. There's a lot more conversation, as I mentioned. There's a lot more independent problem solving. We see in schools everywhere, it's not a Nantucket issue, we see learned helplessness. Kids will just wait for somebody to come and rescue them. Just tell me how to do it, just tell me the answer. And this seems to be the antidote to that, because they have these tools, so they can go and try to figure it out, and that becomes the expectation. The teacher is not always available because they're with a small group of students. So it really builds this grit, this stamina, this thinking, and it's a lot more engaging for kids. Does that make sense?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
If you came in the room, what you'd see is a teacher with a small group of maybe 3 to 5 kids, and the other kids working with a partner, working by themselves, working in groups, doing a variety of different things. So they're changing set throughout the block as well. They love it. It's very engaging.
I'm sure,
And the
yeah.
achievement, obviously, if the achievement didn't go up, we wouldn't have stuck with it. One of our schools became a Blue Ribbon School of Distinction, and other schools came to visit, and they said, what math program do you have? We didn't have a math program. And that was a big aha for people. It's really the mindset and the approach.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
And thank you for asking that question. Am I next?
Yes.
I think it's wonderful, and this really makes me very happy to see the progress, but also the direction that we're going in. And I think really helping support our teachers is so key, because I often say that to be a math teacher, it's usually for people that math comes easy, right? And so when you stand in front of a group of children and you just talk at them, you just expect everybody to know and love math as you do, and that's just not what happens. And so I love the workshop model, and I love the fact that the students are really working together and not just sitting passively listening. And of course, manipulative, I've always loved when I used to volunteer in the elementary school, but having it up in the older grades is so important, and probably.
Yes, it's more abstract, so they
Yeah.
need it more.
Absolutely. And I like the fact that sort of we've recognized for the EL students that math, and I'm sure English is the same, when you're teaching these subjects, you need the most highly qualified teacher in the room, the school to teach this, right? And you can't expect a teacher to be able to teach EL students all their subjects as one person. That's just not the way to do it. My question, you started out earlier saying that you met with teachers and administrators and asked them about the math that we had. Did we also talk to students about the instruction that they were receiving?
No, we didn't. In hindsight, that is something that we discussed that could have made our needs assessment even more robust. But we did go into classrooms and we saw what students were doing. So we have that piece of it.
Last
Who
week-
did you? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I asked a bunch of students, I always do when I'm here, how they like the people who are experiencing the workshop model. It happened to be CPS last week. They loved it. They love the independence. And the other thing I didn't mention is in a workshop model, in a high functioning workshop model, which takes a little while, it's like anything, you get immediate feedback. If you're playing a game, there's a way to see if you're doing it right. So they're always finding out right away, which you know how it is, when I was a teacher, the papers went in my bag, my LL Bean bag, they went home and then they came back, and they went home and they came back. Sometimes kids didn't get feedback for days. So now that seeing that immediate feedback and feeling like they own their learning, you can see the different, everyone was smiling. And I was here last year, so I saw, and we were still in rows from COVID last year. I mean, there's a lot of variables there, but the ones I've talked to, they really are enjoying it.
That's great. That's great, yeah, because math is such a building block subject that it's always been frustrating when students don't get questions right and then it's never reviewed, or it's just a red X on the page, and we can't expect the children to then learn if we're not revising and going back over, so, thank you.
No?
I was just curious about what like the motivation for these changes were. Is it like a yearly assessment? Like where did the motivation come from for the changes?
So when we took a look at our data, it isn't where we want it to be with math, especially with special populations, including our students on IEPs and our EL students within math. It went down with COVID. I am happy to report that we have started the increase back up from the data that was, we'll have a presentation in November about our MCAS data, but we have a lot of growth to do. And so this has been an area that we've been needing to work on for a while. And so we're all digging in together to figure out what the best solutions are.
Yeah.
How does the workshop model work at the high school?
The same way that it works at any level. So it's really about teachers learning to use their data to say, it's like any class. Any class that you go into, some kids are gonna get it like in 2 seconds, some people need a little more time, and some people need a lot more time. So even when we're leveled, there's levels within the levels. So thinking about, it's called an exit ticket the day before. Can I get some data when the kids are on their way out to see where they are right now with this concept? And then the next day, I know who needs that extra time. Some kids might need 5 minutes with me, others might need 20 minutes with me. I will say high school teachers are slower to come to or have previously been slower to come to the workshop model. I'm starting to see a huge increase in interest. I had 3 calls today, I was telling Mandy, and I think it's because the needs are so great. By the time you get to high school, especially after COVID with disruptions, I describe it as kids could be like a piece of Swiss cheese. They have these different holes, and they're not all lined. It's not like I have the same piece of Swiss cheese. So how do we meet the needs of every learner with this many minutes and do it so that some kids aren't bored, some kids aren't frustrated. So it's really just learning the approach and then enacting it, because 5-year-olds can do it. So the older kids are very capable of doing it. It's just more about provisioning the teachers with what they need and the resources. You do need a few more resources to do it. Do you want to jump in?
I just wanted to add, when Allison's talking about data, we're talking about informal pieces of data, classroom data, formative data. It's real time, not necessarily the big pieces of data like MCAS or the map. This is, you have your exit ticket at the end of the day, and you make 3 piles. You have the got it, you have the wait, don't got it, and then you have the middle. Then you've got the middle, and then with that middle, it's like, okay, so what's the misconception, or what do we need to work on? And you start to form groups based on that. And these groups are always changing. It's not you're in a group to stay in a group, right? It's based on the real-time data.
Like today, we could be in a group, and then tomorrow, maybe not. And I don't know in your own experience as a math learner, but a lot of people are really strong in algebra but not in geometry, or vice versa. What I love about this model is that everybody gets a chance to feel good at something, because everyone's going to be on a level playing field at some point where it's brand new content. So they're grouped all with, all kinds of people. It's really an empowering model for kids, because they start to say, this is what I need. And that's what we want kids to do after they leave school, is to be able to advocate for themselves. So that's, I think, why the high school teachers who have been trying it are excited about it, because it's freeing them up some time to say, okay, these kids are coming and they don't even know their multiplication facts. How do I deal with that when I'm trying to teach algebra? But they need those facts. It gives them a space to address it. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
If I may, I have a question for Natalie, if that's possible. Have you seen any of the workshop model in your classes yet, or not yet? in your math
No.
class?
No, I don't think so.
Not yet?
No.
Okay, just
Well,
curious. I'm
What
not-
year are you?
Senior.
You're a senior, yeah, so
Yeah.
we wouldn't have seen it in those level. We're seeing it right now in a lot of algebra, well, not a lot, but we're seeing in Algebra 1, the people who took the training were Algebra 1, and then the 8th grade. So we'll work our way up to those courses. It's like anything, it takes several years,
Sure.
but would you like a learning environment like that?
Yeah, I have a learning disability in math, so this all sounds like glorious.
Maybe I'll have to come visit your class. I'm actually in NHS tomorrow, so
Yeah,
I'll come
AQR.
find you. Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions?
This whole report is fabulous. I mean, it really is great, so thank you.
If I may, I want to just thank you, Allison, for taking us on, and we are very pleased to have found you.
Well, thank you. I was laughing because Foxborough has their school committee meeting this evening, and I'm not there, and said I'm here with you guys. So this is great, and we're talking about math, which is great.
Okay. thank you very
Overall,
much.
we just want to make sure that you understand that there's a cohesive plan and that we're collaboratively working together to address the dilemmas.
Thank you for all your
Thank
support,
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Martin, you're gonna dazzle us with numbers?
Yes, yeah. This is the exciting part of the meeting that everybody's looking forward to. Good evening, Martin Angelov, Chief Financial Officer for Nantucket Public Schools. First quarter usually for us is consists of obviously close to a month of school. So you will see with the charts attached that the expenses grew a little over $569,000 in total in the first quarter of fiscal year 23 over fiscal year 22. A lot of it is driven from professional services, utility increases. I communicate with Diane and Michelle, or they send me information on a regular basis because this is an area where we're seeing exponential increase. Propane, Yates gas just increased their price by 18% per gallon. So we are seeing increases there. We think we'll be okay this year, but for next year we'll have to make an adjustment, an inflationary adjustment to those utilities to make sure that we're covered for FY24. Other expenses that have grown, payroll obviously has increased as well by a little over $92,000. Those are contractual obligations in line with our union agreements and individual contracts negotiated. Other areas that have seen growth, tuition has grown slightly, SPED tuition, also professional services, travel, all these expenses obviously grow as we are now in a fully functioning environment, as opposed to when we were in COVID. We had a lot of these travel budgets not utilized to the fullest. So that's on the school side. Community school revenues have grown by $153,000. This continues a trend that they started last year. Everything has been steadily increasing. We've had, as the community is aware, we've had issues lately with the pool. That has been, I believe, resolved. So the community pool is back in use. But all the increases in revenues, $50,000 of those increases is due to the general fund subsidy, which has grown from $500,000 to $550,000 this year, and the rest is operating revenues that increase, which is great to see. Expenses have increased as well by a little over $118,000. Those are mostly contractual agreements, obviously salaries. A lot of the programs that are being run now weren't done last year. For Learn to Swim program comes to mind because my daughter was part of the whole summer, and others as well. So we've obviously increased staffing levels to match the demand for programming, and that's been great. The other part is medical insurance. As I always report, it's a little over $13,000 increase, which will continue to grow with the next quarters, because it's just we're seeing between 8 and 10% increase in medical insurance cost every year. And it also, just a caveat there, obviously, the community school, when they hire, you don't know what plan that particular employee would choose. And so we try to budget conservatively. So when you see the budgets for FY24, any unfilled positions will be budgeted with the most expensive insurance plan, just to make sure we're covered in the year. School lunch program, the deficit there has decreased by almost, I believe, $17,000, a little over $17,000. The first quarter was at a deficit of a little over 31,000 as compared to over 48 last year. Lunches are being served. Lunch numbers have increased by almost 3,000 lunches. Slight decrease in breakfast numbers, but overall, it's been a good opening of the year so far, and we're looking for feedback, obviously, from the community, from the kids, from teachers, from anybody that can go and sit and have lunch in the school cafeteria to provide any kind of feedback as to how they see the program going this year.
We have a food committee. Do you guys have anything to say about the lunches?
Well, question. Not particularly. We're just meeting just to discuss ways to work with Chartwells. I think when we get to have an idea, we'll certainly bring it to the committee, but.
You haven't been tasting?
No tasting yet.
If I may, that will probably be the next step. And I do reiterate what Martin said, is that with the return to regular service, we are not seeing complaints at all. We are seeing that people are quite comfortable and feeling good about what they're being served. So, which is great. But that said, we certainly want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to try themselves. So.
While we're on this, actually, I would love to, I don't know how we do this by school, but I'd love to get a percentage of adults that have the lunches at the school.
I'm sure we
Can
can,
we get that
we can ask
somehow?
some information, and we can do a quick survey probably at each school and just ask.
That'd be great.
Let's try that. Sure.
Thank you.
This year, just a final reminder, all meals are free to all students. We're being reimbursed at rates. Lunch, I believe, is $4.47, if I'm not mistaken, and $2.26 for breakfast. So the other part, though, the reporting is back to normal. We are reporting now to state all the different categories, free, reduced, and every other category. So just the lunches are being reimbursed, but we're asked now again to start asking people or qualify students where they fall in these categories. So.
Okay.
Can I ask
Oh,
a
yeah.
question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we with that free and reduced number?
I believe we've covered about 40% for the past 3-4 years.
Okay,
We're
so
between
still-
40 and 45%.
Okay, thank you.
But it also depends on the school. So I can take a look at each individual school, and for upcoming quarter presentation, I can provide update as to
Okay.
how each school is.
And did you say between 40 and 45?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's high.
Thank you. Next one, I think, is the student activity report. So this is a audit that has to be done every 3 years. Due to COVID, it wasn't done into 2020. It's being done this year. It requires the auditors to be on site because they visited each individual school. They have to verify reconciliation processes, cash collection, and check disbursement. So they go through an extensive process which cannot be done remotely. So this is a year, 5 years later, we have an audit. It's a lengthy list of items that I believe I don't think there is any serious issues with the student activity management per se. There is several recommendations. One of them, overreaching for all schools, is the use of a district-wide disbursement form that will go with every check written, whether it's from the checking account or when we send a check to go through the town warrant through the agency account for amounts that are larger. As you know, the limits of the checking accounts sometimes do not allow for us to process large expenditures within those limits, so we send some expenses directly to the agency account of the town, and that process goes through the warrant and is under the supervision of the town treasurer. That being said, there is also another comment being made there about reconciliation process. In the past, all the years I've been here, the treasurer, we would use a spreadsheet in which every school student activity coordinator would enter the information on the checking account. The treasurer enters the information on the agency account, which is under their auspice, and then we reconcile that way. This year, we created a town share folder that everybody has access to, so all the spreadsheets are maintained on that folder. When you go in there from the school, you can enter all your information, click save, it goes back there, and the treasurer can open that same document from their computer. The reconciliation now will shift to us, to the schools, so we'll have to, when the town treasurer enters all agency account information, we'll have to go and make sure that everything is correct and matches the general ledger of the town. I know it sounds very technical, but it's just the process that we have in place. I think most school districts have very similar kind of reconciliation process, and we're looking forward. I believe we agreed with the auditors to have another audit of the student activity accounts next year, because we obviously skipped an audit, so they want to come back and see some of these recommendations implemented. So we're going to be back. I'll be back here reporting around this time next year to see how FY 2023 goes. There is other recommendations. Some fund balances have accumulated through the years in student activity accounts, and we've known about that. A lot of it was taken care between 2013 and 2015 by the previous finance director, Glenn Field, and previous superintendent, Michael Cozart. And a lot of improvements, a lot of processes were implemented at the time. So what we see now is just we weren't able to do much fundraising, obviously, during COVID. And what occurred, for instance, I can speak about the intermediate school, because there is a comment there that there is a class moving through the middle school going into the high school with large fund balance. What happened is we had the orange sale, the grapefruit sale that they always have, but the nature's classroom trip never materialized. So those money were fundraised but never used, so they're moving with the class. Class obviously can decide what they do, because, as you know, student activity accounts, they belong to the students. They don't belong to us. We are just an agency for them, making sure that everything is done correctly. And when they graduate with a balance, we usually write a check to that outgoing class after they've opened a bank account. The comment for the high school that states that these checks are written to individuals, I disagree with personally. I don't think we ever write a check to an individual. We write checks to people that are that have acted as student activity advisors. So they come, they agree, they open. Somebody has to provide a social security number, obviously, when you go and open a bank account. But we've always followed process. This is the first time I see this, so I'm gonna discuss between now and next year with the audit, because I don't know what the solution is. December Delight by itself brings upwards of $45,000. And it's up to the students to use them as they see fit. If they decide to go on a trip to Barcelona, they can do that. But if they decide to keep the money and use them for future, whether it's graduation, whether it's class gatherings, they can do that. It's under their right. It's not our decision as a school district to make as to how they utilize these funds. So those are the things I have. There is obviously other comments for different schools. I believe overall, there is a comment about training, and I just want to touch base upon that. We sent 2 student activity coordinators from front offices this year to Mark Abrahams, and we'll make sure next year when this is available again, we'll send the other 2 coordinators will go as well. It's just it's a training that's organized. He does it statewide training, Mark Abrahams. I've gone to his training. I've actually taken the student activity training. It's pretty. It's all encompassing. It talks about policy. It talks about regulations, laws, but it also talks about cash disbursements, reconciliation process, and things that are needed on a day-to-day basis. So.
Ma'am?
If you have any questions, I mean, I know it's a lot of information there, so.
Sorry, I'm just trying to intake all this information. They do make a lot of good points, especially with the part where all this money that gets collected, and I mean, has there ever been a case where the money doesn't get properly used in the past?
If I may, I think it happens every once in a while that there is a substantial amount that is left at the end, in which case there has to be a decision as to what happens to it. And in some cases, it becomes an alumni event that happens or something. But it is a challenge because if a class doesn't spend the money or isn't able to, I mean, we're thinking about, for example, the case that Martin cited about the middle school that didn't get a chance to go to Nature's Classroom, but they did a lot of fundraising. We're going to have to help them without push. I mean, it's really it's student decision, it's student driven. So, you know, we hope that we can provide some assistance with, to help them figure it out. But ultimately, they're the ones that are going to use that and decide what they want to use that money on themselves without us. So, I mean, obviously, we'll guide them and give assistance. You know, the idea of going to Barcelona sounds fantastic, but it has to be offered and available to all students. It can't be a small group that identify or that can benefit. It needs to be everyone who has that opportunity. So.
It just through the chair. It just a lot of the times it depends on the what the fundraiser is for. I know that there was a student activity fundraiser done for the China trip that was done 3 years ago. So it always depends. There is accumulation of especially in the small schools, the NIS schools. They do have some balances left, and they can be used for class trips. They can be used for different activities that benefit the students directly, obviously, and that are outside of the operating budget. So that's up to the students to recommend and decide. The other part, in the past, we've had graduating classes donate funds to a specific program, whether it's the wood shop or whether it's any other program. We've had donations in the past. We cannot solicit those donations. We cannot ask them to do that. That's again, as Superintendent Hallett just mentioned, that's a decision that the class advisors should make.
Understood, thank you.
Laura?
It would seem to me that just providing the guidance and that the class advisor says, you've got X amount, we're anticipating the prom or whatever will cost this. So I think it's just having that, keeping that conversation going so they don't have a huge chunk that they'll, spend at their, 30th reunion or something, so.
Pauline?
Right. And yes, I mean, you'll see also as we go through the year that the new year, you'll see us vote on the accounts moving up. So the accounts from the 5th grade goes into the 6th grade. So the monies, as they raise it, goes with them. But is there a regulation as to how long we can hold the accounts? Because I know when we got audited, if it wasn't the last time, it was the time before, that we had accounts that had been open and from years past. So what is the regulation now? Are they supposed to close as the seniors graduate? Or?
Within 4 months, I believe, of them graduating, we have to disburse that money to them or make a contact and continue to try to do that within 6 months. I believe after 6 months, you can then go to the school committee, and if you cannot reach anybody from that graduating class and there is no interest in those funds, they can be repurposed. In the past, I believe we did some money were transferred into Nantucket Education Trust for children's incentives.
Programs. Yeah.
So that's an opportunity that can happen as well. There is also some deficits that are mentioned here. I have sent emails to the coordinators suggesting how we can resolve these deficits, because there is obviously some accounts that have surpluses, and I believe we'll be able to do that internally, so that shouldn't be a problem. And a comment was made there about an yearbook account for the middle school having upwards of $5,000. So they're saying that we can either not charge a class or charge them less. Those are just recommendations. They're not requirements to act on any of them on our part. Like I said, as I said, these funds belong to students.
Yeah. So maybe going forward, whoever I forget the term of it, the teacher who is the year teacher?
The
No, that's not-
advisor?
The advisor for the year, yeah. Thank you. Maybe it would be good prior to the end of every year to meet with the class officers and just give them an update. Because, I mean, I wouldn't know anything about it if nobody was talking about it. And certainly if I was a class leader, I wouldn't necessarily be thinking about this bank account that we have that's, so maybe that's something that we can make sure that the advisors are doing every year. And as you say, the seniors, I know they've bought, I think they bought the high school, the monitor in the high school hall was bought by the senior class one year, and there's been other gifts to the music department through the seniors, so something to think about. Not that anyone's telling you, but, thank you, Martin.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. Committee discussions and votes to be taken. September 28th, workshop meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second, I have a typo.
Okay, thanks.
Surprise.
Laura's name was misspelled in the first, you're welcome.
Thank you. We
Okay.
will
It
certainly
was
change
spelled
that.
everywhere else, but not in the first.
Okay, we will certainly make that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote to approve the donation of cheerleading platform to NPS Athletic Department from Mike Gillies.
So-
And there isn't an amount in it,
Uh,
or is it just the platform?
It's a donation, yeah, it's just a donation of the platform. If you'd like to know a little bit more about it, let me explain. This is a very generous, a generous opportunity to create a removable platform that will be placed in front of the grandstand so that our cheering team can be lifted up.
Oh, nice.
And so it is removable, which is great. And this is, it's just time and materials that have been donated by this gentleman. So we're very, very appreciative.
Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just means they fall further.
Oh, God.
God, Dr. Lepre.
No, we've had a lot of injuries on the cheerleaders. A vote to approve the donation to CPS, WCPS News Network in the amount of $200 from RA Energy.
Yes, so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
A vote to approve the donation to NIS Grade 3 for bus transportation to Plymouth Plantation from the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools in the amount of $1,770.68.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
A vote to approve school committee goals.
If I may, just for a quick explanation, based on your feedback and input from our workshop, which happened on September 28th, adjustments have been made to the goals document, and you will see in blue the requests that you have made to add or move pieces around. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to go over any of them.
Looks great.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A vote for transfers and invoices.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Subcommittee work group report. Since I hit up the food tasters,
And we're involved in collective bargaining, and so we had a meeting just prior to this one. So we haven't yet begun the negotiation process, but we are
Planning.
preparing and planning. Mhm.
okay. Anyone else?
Nantucket Education Trust is meeting tomorrow. I will announce, if it's okay,
Please.
that I did make the decision to step off of Nantucket Education Trust. I've been on it for 20 years, and I figured that it's probably time for me to roll off.
You will be very missed.
Best practices is not 20 years. So tomorrow will be my last meeting.
Oh. Congratulations. for
Thank
your
you.
service.
So
Thank
who
you.
is succeeding you?
Well, Rocky is continuing on, and then
Okay.
the committee will be looking to add more people to join Nantucket Education Trust. I'm looking at the camera, so that many people that are watching will want to sign up.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Natalie?
Yeah, we have
Homecoming.
a lot going on this week. So as Dr. Hallett mentioned, we have Spirit Week going on. Yesterday was Red Day, so that was in honor of the red ribbon day, and then today was Adam Sandler Day, so we all dressed up in baggy clothes. It was very comfortable. Wednesday is Superhero Day, so get some capes, I guess. And then Thursday is Color War Day. The freshmen have green, sophomores pink, juniors white, seniors black, and then Friday is Whaler Pride Day. Wednesday, we'll do the annual hallway decorating. So obviously tomorrow's a half day, but we're able to come in at 3 until 9 and decorate our hallway. So each class has their own hallway, which is super fun. And then Thursday, there'll be a pep rally by the cheerleaders on the football field at 6. And then Saturday, the 22nd, is the day of all the games. And the float parade, which will leave the school at 9:45. Suggest watching it, everybody. Very fun. And then that same Saturday, we'll have the homecoming dance from 8 to 10. Right now, it's going to be in the cafeteria. And the student council actually just met today. And if we have a higher numbers, then we're going to move it to the gym. But for now, it's going to be in the cafeteria. And then we also have another Spirit Week next week for the Island Cup game, which is Saturday the 29th, which is at the Vineyard High School this year. So we'll have a Spirit Week leading up to that, which is fun. And then we're also going to have another pep rally for that on Thursday, October 27th, during our advisory block at school. And then some things not for homecoming. The drama club, the NHS drama club, is hard at work on our production. We're doing The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime this year, which is it's a really great play.
It's a really great play.
Yeah, so we're set to go up Friday, November 18th at 6 p.m. and then we'll do Saturday, November 19th at 6, and our matinee Sunday at 2. And then the Accidentals and Naturals Select Singing Group has begun rehearsals for our different gigs that we do, mostly throughout the holiday season. And then another thing is the Teen Truth program, which was adopted last year by the high school, which was selected juniors. It's like a mentoring type program, so the juniors mentor the freshmen. So that's happening again this year. The juniors and the seniors will be coaching the freshmen. So there's going to be some training for that, I believe, on Thursday. But that is starting up again this week. And then lastly, the MCAS scores are in and will be sent out to students and parents very soon. I think that's it.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Is there any Powder Puff game this year?
Yeah, so the Powder Puff game, we couldn't have it during homecoming week. There's just too much going on with the booster fundraiser, which is on Friday for the Island Cup documentary. So we're going to have it the following week, so Tuesday the 25th, the week of the Island Cup game. So yeah, that'll be Tuesday the 25th.
That's great.
If I may, I'm going to be reaching out to the new superintendent of Martha's Vineyard. His name is Richie Smith, and I will be requesting or suggesting a friendly wager about the Island Cup. So we'll see what that would entail, but could very well be that one of us the losing person has to wear the colors of of the other team. So you'll know if I'm in purple and white.
Uh-oh.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Natalie, who is the advisor for Drama Club this year?
Oh yeah, so this year it is Mr. Matt Ferreira, who is newly hired math teacher here. He was a TA last year and he helped out Miss Tessiera last year, and then Sean Allen is doing it and Kylie Murphy as
Great.
well. So the three of them.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's quite a show.
it is.
I can't wait to see
It's
it.
amazing.
Okay, anything else? Oh, the agenda for next meeting.
Yes, so we will revisit the school calendar, probably with some changes that we have put out there. Maybe it will be for a vote, so maybe it'll only be 2 iterations of it, which would be great. We'll look at enrollment, of course. It's going to be an assessment-driven meeting, so we'll be reviewing MCAS and accountability with you, what we saw from last year and some of the Department of Education findings as well, because they have done some in-depth looking at comparisons between 2021, which was a COVID year, and 2019, and we didn't have MCAS in 2020. So it'll be interesting to kind of see that. I do hope to also include VOCAL, VOCAL, which is it's a survey that goes out to students in grade 4, 5, 8, and 10 around belongingness, culture in schools, climate. And so I would really like to be able to present on that as well, if possible. And if not next week, the next meeting, then we would push it to the week after.
Is that new?
The vocal survey has been in place for a little while, but I don't think we've ever really dug into it. It's been it usually is given right after MCAS, which is always interesting. I'm thinking, what frame of mind are our students after after MCAS? But okay, but there is a workshop next Tuesday. I'm hoping to convince some members of the leadership team to be able to go. Where they dig in, districts will come together and dig in together to understand better what this survey shows and what that means for future planning, et cetera. And then finally, we'll look at we'll start our budget talks with preliminary budget forecasting. May not be presentations, so to speak, but anything that might come up that we want to share with you about budget, we'll certainly do on that meeting. So.
Has anyone signed up for the conference? You have, yeah, I'm hoping to sign up for that Thursday and Friday.
Oh, good,
Yeah,
wonderful.
I just with our house opening, I've been trying to wait to see how that looks.
You can
you
speak
guys-
with Ms. Bedell,
no.
she'll take care of you.
I'm in, I have a couple of pending things, so I'm not sure I can do it, but we'll see.
Okay.
Right.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So excited
I would
about the
like
play. Oh, what a great.
Yeah.
Have you?
I know
have you seen the musical?
Esmeralda's off the
It's
table.
beautiful.
I get it. I said I know it's off the table for Esmeralda. I know when my kids
So,
were
you know
little,
what's
just to
really
have a couple
fascinating about
quiet
that is
couple
that,
days away from me.
You could even use
Sorry,
that.
put you guys on
in a-
the,